As she flew off, Margarita saw only that the virtuoso jazzman, fighting against the polonaise blowing in Margarita's back, was beating his jazzmen on the heads with the cymbal while they cowered in comic fright. Finally they flew out onto the landing where, as Margarita realized, she had been met in the dark by Koroviev with his little lamp. Now on this landing the light pouring from clusters of crystal grapes blinded the eye. Margarita was put in place, and under her left arm she found a low amethyst column. You may rest your arm on it if it becomes too difficult, Koroviev whispered. Some black man threw a pillow under Margarita's feet embroidered with a golden poodle, and she, obedient to someone's hands, bent her right leg at the knee and placed her foot on it. Margarita tried to look around. Koroviev and Azazello stood beside her in formal poses. Next to Azazello stood another 3 young men, vaguely reminding Margarita of Abaddon. It blew cold in her back. Looking there, Margarita saw bubbly wine spurt from the marble wall behind her and pour into a pool of ice. At her left foot she felt something warm and furry. It was Behemoth. Margarita was high up, and a grandiose stairway covered with carpet descended from her feet. Below, so far away that it was as if Margarita were looking the wrong way through binoculars, she saw a vast front hall with an absolutely enormous fireplace, into the cold and black maw of which a 5-ton truck could easily have driven. The front hall and stairway, so flooded with light that it hurt the eyes, were empty. The sound of trumpets now came to Margarita from far away. Thus they stood motionless for about a minute. But where are the guests? Margarita asked Koroviev. They'll come, Queen, they'll come soon enough. There'll be no lack of them. And, really, I'd rather go and chop wood than receive them here on the landing. Chop wood? Ha! Picked up the garrulous cat. I'd rather work as a tram conductor, and there's no worse job in the world than that. Everything must be made ready in advance, Queen, explained Koroviev, his eye gleaming through the broken monocle. There's nothing more loathsome than when the first guest to arrive languishes, not knowing what to do, and his lawful beldame nags at him in a whisper for having come before everybody else. Such balls should be thrown in the trash, Queen. Definitely in the trash, confirmed the cat. No more than 10 seconds till midnight, said Koroviev. It'll start presently. Those 10 seconds seemed extremely long to Margarita. Obviously they had already passed and precisely nothing had happened. But here something suddenly crashed downstairs in the huge fireplace, and from it leapt a gallows with some half-decayed remains dangling from it. The remains fell from the rope, struck the floor, and from it leapt a handsome dark-haired man in a tailcoat and patent leather shoes. A half-rotten little coffin ran out of the fireplace, its lid fell off, and another remains tumbled out of it. The handsome man gallantly leapt over to it and offered it his bent arm. The second remains put itself together into a fidgety woman in black shoes, with black feathers on her head, and then the man and the woman both hastened up the stairs. The first! Exclaimed Koroviev. Monsieur Jacques and his spouse. I commend to you, Queen, one of the most interesting of men. A confirmed counterfeiter, a traitor to his government, but a rather good alchemist. Famous, Koroviev whispered in Margarita's ear, for having poisoned a king's mistress. That doesn't happen to everyone. Look how handsome he is. The pale Margarita, her mouth open, watched as both gallows and coffin disappeared into some side passage in the front hall. Delighted? The cat yelled right into the face of Monsieur Jacques as he came up the stairs. At that moment a headless skeleton with a torn-off arm emerged from the fireplace, struck the ground, and turned into a man in a tailcoat. Monsieur Jacques' spouse was already going on one knee before Margarita and, pale with excitement, was kissing Margarita's foot. Queen, Monsieur Jacques' spouse murmured. The Queen is delighted, cried Koroviev. Queen, the handsome Monsieur Jacques said quietly. We're delighted, howled the cat. The young men, Azazello's companions, smiling lifeless but affable smiles, were already shouldering Monsieur Jacques and his spouse to one side, towards the cups of champagne that the Negroes were holding. The single man in the tailcoat was coming up the stairs at a run. Earl Robert, Koroviev whispered to Margarita, interesting as ever. Note how funny, Queen, the reverse case, this one was a queen's lover and poisoned his wife. We're very glad, Earl, cried Behemoth. Out of the fireplace, bursting open and falling apart, 3 coffins tumbled one after another, then came someone in a black mantle, whom the next one to run out of the black maw stabbed in the back with a knife. A stifled cry was heard from below. An almost entirely decomposed corpse ran out of the fireplace. Margarita shut her eyes, and someone's hand held a flagon of smelling salts to her nose. Margarita thought the hand was Natasha's. The stairway began to fill up. Now on each step there were tailcoaters, looking quite alike from afar, and naked women with them, who differed from each other only in the color of their shoes and of the feathers on their heads. Coming towards Margarita, hobbling, a strange wooden boot on her left foot, was a lady with nunnishly lowered eyes, thin and modest, and with a wide green band around her neck for some reason. "Who is this green one?" Margarita asked mechanically,